Department of Health, Universities, Management, international universities, professional bodies, which we will introduce as the program proceeds. I'm just going to open by a word which I will read from the book of Ecclesiastes, chapter 3, verse 1 to 8, the English Standard Version. It reads as follows: For everything there is a season, and a time for every matter under heaven, a time to be born, and a time to die, a time to plant, and a time to pluck up what is planted, a time to kill, a time to heal, a time to break down, and a time to build up, a time to weep, and a time to laugh, a time to mourn, and a time to dance, a time to cast away stones, and a time to gather stones, a time to embrace, and a time to refrain from embracing, a time to seek, and a time to lose, a time to keep, and a time to cast away, a time to tear, and a time to sow, a time to keep silence, and a time to speak, a time to love, and a time to hate, a time for war, and a time for peace. Colleagues, thank you. That is a reading of the word. We are paying tribute and our respect to our beloved friend and colleague, Prof. Walubo, as family know him as Andrew. And I would like also to take this opportunity to welcome everybody that is joining us, whether online and here, on behalf of the University of the Free State, the Rector and the Vice Chancellor, Professor Peterson and the Rectorate, and also from our Dean of Health Sciences, Professor Helfonsein, who, due to other commitments, is unable to join us, but has given his message, which I will read. Celebrating the life of Professor Andrew Walubo. With the passing of Professor Andrew Walubo as head of Department of Pharmacology and full professor in the Faculty of Health Sciences, University of the Free State, the faculty and the university was left with a deep feeling of loss and sadness. Prof. Walubo was known for the role that he played as head of Department of Pharmacology in the Faculty of Health Sciences, School of Medicine, and later School of Clinical Medicine since 1999. Professor Walubo was a member of Senate from 2009 to 2020 and represented the Faculty of Health Sciences, University of the Free State on several platforms. One of these platforms was the College of Medicine of South Africa, where Prof. Walubo served as president and as past president. Serving as president at the College of Pharmacology in the College of Medicine of South Africa is one of the examples of the vital roles Prof. Walubo played in his capacity as head of department. There are other three examples that I want to put forward as examples on the excellence that Prof. Walubo promoted. The first example was when I was CEO of Universitas Hospital in 1999, the year that Prof. Walubo took up the post as head of Department of Pharmacology. At this stage, the University of Free State had decided to sell the research platform of the Department of Pharmacology, named PharmOps. PharmOps was sold partly to Parexel at that stage and moved outside the faculty. During this time, Prof. Walubo did not sit back, and despite having a limited platform for research, he built his own research platform to take forward his groundbreaking research that he has done on liver enzymes. He also created an opportunity, an environment for other pharmacologists and staff. The second example that I want to put forward is Prof. Walubo's prolific writing skills. He enjoyed working with submissions for grant proposals and getting these grant proposals out. When I was head of School of Medicine and his line manager, I can fondly remember Prof. Walubo's passion to get a grant proposal on the table for the pharmacovigilance unit in his department. Prof. Walubo had several discussions with me about the funding initiative for the pharmacovigilance unit and how to take it forward. Needless to say that he was successful with his initiative, and this is one of many good examples of how Prof. Walubo took matters forward. The third example that I want to quote today to acknowledge is an example of the sterling work that Prof. Walubo did is the Indigenous Knowledge Systems Unit at the University of the Free State. When they decided to close the Indigenous Knowledge Systems in Cape Town at the South African Medical Research Council, Prof. Walubo decided to look at this alternative and to bring this to his department. He meticulously sat down with me and took me through the whole proposal and convinced me that it's a good opportunity as Dean to establish in his department. And we flew down to Cape Town with Dr. Glenn Taylor and negotiated the deal for the Indigenous Knowledge Systems Unit to move this to his department at the University of the Free State. It is history now to indicate the success and achievements of this move. These three examples explain eloquently the contributions as examples of what Prof. Walubo contributed to the Faculty of Health Sciences and to the University of the Free State. I want to end off by acknowledging the role Prof. Walubo played in establishing the recent MMed program in clinical pharmacology in his department. Although he was involved in the shortlisting and interviews of the register, is said to know that 2 days after Prof. Walubo passed away, the first register started at the Department of Pharmacology with his MMed. I want to dedicate this to the legacy of Prof. Walubo that he built and left behind for us and to benefit from it for years to come. Our condolences to Mrs. Elizabeth Walubo, the children and family, as well as our academic colleagues and close friends to Prof. Walubo for this big loss. You will be missed, Andrew. And that is the message from our Dean in respect to our fellow colleague, Professor Andrew Walubo. We are now going to have a rendition, an item. I just want to know if that is the Joyce. Is that ready? Okay. Thank you. Let's enjoy. Let's pay our respect and tribute as we enjoy the rendition. right, I think we'll leave it for now. We'll go for the next explanation item. Now, I just want to now introduce Dr. Mboneni Muofe, who is the Deputy Director General for the Department of Health, Science and Technology Innovations, to pay his tribute and respects, condolences, colleagues and family. I think Dr. Muofe is online. Thank you, sir. You're welcome.
Thanks very much. Very good afternoon.
Ik krijg geen focus, want het is een beetje moeilijk op je scherm.
Every time she only thing that's need all night speakers big words from all this time. And I think this is really to make sure that we champion great maker and also to make sure can legacy.
Thank you very much, Dr. Muofe, for those kind words, tributes, and honoring the legacy of our beloved friend and colleague, Professor Andrew Walubo. I think there was just some technical issues in terms of audio, but we've heard the sentiments that you have expressed. Thank you for your support. Your department has given us the opportunity to host the indigenous knowledge systems at the University of the Free State. And we hope this collaboration and support in honor of the legacy of Andy Walubo, it will continue, as well with the support of Professor Matsabisi. Thank you, sir. I'm now going to call upon Dr. Glenn Taylor, who is our Senior Director of Research Development in the University of the Free State. Dr. Glenn Taylor played a very pivotal role towards the establishment of the research unit in pharmacology and also the indigenous knowledge systems. Dr. Taylor, the floor is yours. Thank you. Dr. Taylor, can you unmute yourself? I think we are muted. Apologies. Thank you. Can hear you. Is your sound unmuted?
Klein boksie onderling staan lengtijdig klik. Er is een drop-down menu wat Frans op kan klikken bij zijn document door kijken of hij meet. Ja, kijk gaan. Ek het gesien, ja. Weet julle of die mense op Teams kan kry? Dankie dat je opcheck. Oké, at least kan hulle hoor wat betekenis aan ons kant.
All right, thank you very much, Dr. Taylor, for your contribution in honoring the legacy of Professor Walubo. So on our side here, I think we're just experiencing some few technical issues with the audio. But having known you and having worked with you, we could understand the impact and the role that Prof. Walubo played and the level of interaction that you had with him. So thank you for those kind words. I think we're now going to have a rendition, a musical item from the University of the Free State Audio School of Music. It's a recording that was done by Dumisani Reni, and the piece is called Wamuhle Zanzi Africa.
Weet je of dit lang is, dus met teamstok bij stilstand of met jullie? Dat is weer van de neus nooit lang gekregen. Dat is weer van de neus nooit lang gekregen. Toch nou, die klank is nog af. Die klank nog hier bij de rekenaar zelf ben gezet hier. Ja, en dan...
Thank you, colleagues.
Self is off, I think.
Just with some few technical issues here with the audio, but nevertheless, it should not dampen the spirit in which we are here to honor the legacy
Can I
of
get closer? Because
our dear friend and colleague, Professor Walubo. It's actually a celebration of his life. I'm going to invite Professor Masabisa, who is the Director of Indigenous Knowledge Systems, the Pharmacology Department. He's also the Deputy President of the South African Society for Basic and Clinical Pharmacology. He's the Chair of the WHO Regional Expert Committee for Traditional Medicines and COVID-19, and a guest professor in Beijing University of Chinese Medicine. Professor Masabisa will be joined by his colleague, Professor Paulina van Zyl, and the two will be giving the word from the pharmacology department. Over to you, Professor Masabisa. Thank you, sir.
Professor Paulina van Zyl to read a message from the Clinical Pharmacology Group, and I will then read the message from the Pharmacology Basic Research Group. So without wasting much time, I would want to hand over to Professor van Zyl to quickly read the message from the Clinical Pharmacology Group. Over to you, Paulina.
Firstly, I'll read the message from Ms. Rihanna van Wyk, a lecturer and senior pharmacist at our department. I had the privilege to work with Prof. Walubo, my head of department, for many years. He always supported me in my work, as well as the teaching and learning activities of the department. He contributed a lot to the department and the university. It is sad to say goodbye, and I will miss Prof. Walubo, a true legend. My thoughts are with his family, friends, and colleagues. May he rest in peace. From myself, Prof. Paulina van Zyl from the Clinical Division, Prof. Walubo found joy in teaching, mentoring, and guiding students and fellow doctors. He served as the coordinator and as consultant at our local Poison and Drug Information Center for more than 20 years. Through this service, he advised staff in casualty departments as well as ordinary hospital wards, emergency services personnel, and concerned members of the public from across the country, while continuously mentoring the staff of the clinical division to sharpen their skills in toxicology and therapeutic drug monitoring services. He also served on the Universitas PTC for many years. He contributed greatly to teaching of undergraduate and postgraduate students, and he particularly enjoyed his annual intake of honours students. During our last conversation on the 7th of October, just after the conclusion of the interviews for our very first intake of registrars, Prof said the following to me: "Maybe this will be my legacy, the training of these registrars. It is tragic that he could not complete this task. we will continue where he left off. My most sincere condolences to his wife, children, and extended family. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Professor Fanzai. I will continue to read the message from the pharmacology group. And the message reads as follows. A tribute to Professor Andrew Walubo. Professor Walubo captured a place in our hearts throughout the time he spent with us. He has been a great mentor to us, and his passing will never take away the legacy it's left. His energetic, ever-smiling, warm behavior and good sense of humor will always be remembered. He was very passionate about his work and always motivated us to grow beyond our expectations. Thank you for all the life lessons and installing independence in us. With absolute assurance, our research career would not have been possible without his guidance. He was a great teacher and a researcher. The meticulous manner in which he prepared and delivered his lectures attest all shared. Prof was a thorough gentleman and an extremely human being. Despite his monumental achievement, his immediate education exemplary. He will be dearly missed by us all as a beloved. On earth. You will be truly missed, Prof. May God give you wide the strength during this difficult time. In this, and a library has bent down. This message now comes from the pharmacovigilance group, of which Prof was principal investigator. It reads as follows. In memory of Professor Walubo, our HOD and principal investigator in the drug industry. When great souls die, the air around us becomes light, rare, and sterile. We breathe briefly, eyes head clarity, a memory suddenly sharpened, nose on kind words, promised hope never taken, great star in our reality, bound to them, we hope. Us in the pharmacological field, a child that can never be planted has truly fallen. And I want to read the last message. The last message reads as follows. How lucky I am to have known someone that is so hard to say goodbye to. Prof. Walubo has been known to some with different attributes. Some knew him as a true academic who took no nonsense and mediocrity when it comes to academic studies. Some knew him as a true medic and a dedicated health professional. Some knew him as a seasoned researcher and a clinical pharmacologist. Some may have known him as a leader, a no-nonsense leader, while some might have just known him as a stubborn and a difficult HOD. While some may have just known him as Andrew, the Professor Walubo, the HOD in pharmacology. However, to me, he has been a true friend and a mentor. a gentle and a humble giant that walked with all of us to reach the higher bar that he has set for all of us. To me, he has been a true gentleman and a loving father. To me, he was a humble, caring, peace-loving person. Most of all, to me, he has been a human being, an African, and a soil and son of the soil. Indeed, truly, a humble giant has fallen. Andrew, you have left this loud silence. Andrew, your song has ended, but maybe we will linger on for times to come. Rest in peace, my friend. You have seen the good, the bad, the ugly, but truly won many battles and won many hearts. Betty, Christine, and Kelvin, condolences, and you are not alone. You have fun and around. God bless the Walubo family and stay forever with them. Thank you so much. Those are the messages from the Department of Farm. Thanks, Program Director. Thanks to the Prof.
Thank you, Professor Matsabisa and the colleagues at Pharmacology, as well as Professor Fansay. For those words, you can see that they come from the heart. And we are grateful for the wonderful memories and the lessons that you have learned and the legacy that he has left behind, our dear friend, colleague, mentor, teacher, our professor, head of the department, the gentleman, Andrew Walubo. I'm now going to call upon the management of the Investors Academic Hospital, represented by Dr. Vita Nathan, who is heading the clinical directorate at Universitas Academic Hospital. Dr. Nathan, thank you for availing yourself and giving your words from Universitas Academic Hospital. Over to you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Prof. Mufolo. Very good afternoon to Prof. Walubo's family, friends, and colleagues. I have had the privilege over the last 7 years to be the direct line manager of Prof. Walubo. To Mrs. Becky Walubo, family, relatives, friends, on behalf of the Universitas Academic Hospital Executive and the Free State Department of Health, we wish to express our sincerest and deepest sympathies. It is such a great loss indeed, and this will leave a huge gap in all our minds and hearts for a long time to come. I was on leave when I got the sad and unexpected news of the passing of Prof. Walubo, more especially since I sat in on the interview with him just prior to his leave. And he was his normal, bubbly, jokey self, being a true gentleman, and that I will always want to remember. It was a huge stride in terms of employing registrars in pharmacology for the Free State Department of Health and the University of Free State and Universitas Academic Hospital. We often forecast the hour of death into the distant future. Little did I know that today I would be thinking of Prof. Walubo as a fond memory, gone so soon. It makes one realize how short life truly is. In one instance, and the next, they are gone. In all the time that I worked with Prof. Walubo, in spite of all his accolades, qualifications, vast knowledge and experience, I experienced him to be one of the most humble, kind, and very knowledgeable, fatherly type of figure, who was never afraid to express his viewpoint and substantiate it. He was never afraid to speak truth to power and authoritative figures, even when he differed with the accused. He took constructive criticism in its stride and was always patient, willing to listen and understand and respect others' perspectives on issues. I was always in awe and admired him for these qualities. I respected the way in which he carried himself in a very professional manner, and he would robustly debate issues, even when there was controversy around the issues. I got to experience the side of him almost daily with regards to the use of specific drugs that were not on the essential medicines list or the free state formula. I still recall one of the first challenges that I was faced with here when I arrived at Universitas Academic Hospital. It related to the drug utilization and the spiraling expenditure on the H101 drugs. I discussed this with Prof. Walubo, and I was amazed at how quickly he responded and helped me troubleshoot and put systems in place to monitor and evaluate and curb the expenditure on these H101s. He even volunteered to screen and investigate all the requests personally prior to making a recommendation on the drug use. This gesture spoke volumes to me when I arrived at the free state. He made me feel welcome and supported. And for someone in such a high authoritative position, he could have allocated this to one of his specialists. But he took this upon himself personally to make sure that we basically reduce the expenditure on these drugs. My admiration for Prof sparked and grew from that very point onwards. He truly made a good first impression on me as a doctor, leader, teacher, mentor, and head of department. But more importantly, he maintained that impression that I had of him over this time. With these helpful efforts to assist me grow the Department of Pharmacology and strengthen the governance structures like the Universitas Academic Hospital, PTC. I always felt comforted with Prof. Walubo around running the Department of Pharmacology. He managed to put me at ease, knowing full well that he had everything under control, with his display of excellent leadership and managerial qualities. I would call on Prof. Walubo for assistance at any time, and he would respond promptly and efficiently, be it day or night, whether he was on leave or not, it didn't matter. He was a truly committed and diligent person. Prof. Walubo will always be remembered dearly for his contribution locally, nationally, and in getting the specialist field of pharmacology recognized as a specialty with the HPCSA. I will always remember how his eyes lit up when he would speak so passionately and advocate for pharmacology issues, which is relatively new and still evolving. Prof. Walubo has definitely made his mark and laid a strong foundation and has left behind a huge legacy in the field of medicine to evolve further. Prof. always paid attention to detail when it came to rendering a pharmacological service, as well as when he performed these academic tasks. He supported me extremely well as the head of pharmacology in his role, and also in the governance committees. His accolades and contributions over the years speak for themselves. Dear Prof. Walubo, I believe that heaven has made an angel, and you will continue to guide us from above. We will remember you affectionately, always, and miss you dearly. You have touched so many of our lives with these precious memories that we will treasure forever. I am truly grateful for the time that I have spent working with you. You have taught me and others so much. Rest in peace, Prof. Go well. Thanks, Prof. Walubo.
Thank you very much, Dr. Nathan, for a very strong word of encouragement and message in respect and in tribute to our dear beloved friend and colleague, Professor Andrew Walubo. Thank you, Dr. Nathan. I'm going to call Mr. Mukesh Dada, who is the Director of the Pharmacovigilance for Public Health Programs, the Pharmacovigilance Unit at the National Department of Health, as you have learned that there is a great work that Prof. Walubo has been championing with a lot of people in the field workers are still busy now as we speak, collecting data in various parts of the Free State, copies in Northern Free State and so forth. And this has been his passion. I know he did it very passionately. So, Mr. Dada, can you kindly indicate if you are available?
I'm ready.
Are you ready, sir? All right.
Yes.
Thank you, and over to you. Thank you, sir.
Okay. Thank you. So together with Professor Walubo's family experience, I would like to express our deep sadness in his passing. So I first met Professor Walubo in 2000, when myself and the previous Registrar of Elections, Precious Matoto, visited Free State to discuss pharmacovigilance and how Free State could assist us with the program. And as you would know, Professor Walubo was the one that would jump in quickly and wanted to take control of the program. And that was in 2004. I began interacting more with Professor Walubo when he joined the Medicines Control Council, which is now SAPRA. And he was one of the reviewers and evaluators. And he was noticed very quickly. What used to happen is when new evaluators came to the program, the seasoned ones would challenge them. But Professor Walubo was one that would not back down. As was mentioned by the previous speaker, he would challenge every item that he thought he was right. Our interactions grew much more when we began in 2017 with the pregnancy registry. We began to conceptualize the introduction of a pregnancy registry for HIV patients. And we worked very hard on this program, and this was his passion, as was mentioned. And he worked, and he wasn't leaving anything to chance. Even when we started with the database collection, we said we're going to use a program called RedCap. And Professor Walubo was not leaving it to statisticians. He took at least 2 weeks off from his work and to study and learn the whole program to continue with the database capture. So just when this program was picking up momentum, it is said that Professor Walubo had to leave and he had to pass on. He has now left a huge gap, which is going to be difficult to fill. Not by one person, by more than one person. So we will deeply miss him, especially when we go down to the University of Free State, where he would eagerly await for us outside the building when we arrive. On the behalf of my team and the Department of Health, I bid him farewell. May the kind Lord bless him and his soul. Over.
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Dada. One can get that sense of void that Prof. Walubo has left. And we hope that those that he has managed to mentor and to work with will come forward and close that gap. Thank you for your kind words. I'm now going to call Professor Glenda Gray, as many would know her. She's the president of the South African Medical Research Council. Professor Gray, it's an honor and a privilege to have you on our program and to pay tribute to one of our colleagues. Over to you. Thank you. You can just unmute yourself, Professor Gray. You can unmute. Professor Gray, can you hear us?
I don't know what happened. It looks like Professor Gray has a technical problem. She just left. Maybe we can get to the next speaker and then come back to her.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you for that. I'm going to call Professor Paulina van Zyl to come and give a message from the toxicology lab from our colleague, Dr. Jan du Plessis.
We received the following message from Dr. Jan du Plessis, the head of the Pharmacology Service Delivery Laboratory at Universitas Hospital. Dear colleagues, friends, and family of Prof. Walubo, I was deeply saddened to hear of the passing of Prof. Walubo. My thoughts are with his family and friends. Prof. Walubo was always a great support for me during the years we have worked together, and that is the full time of Prof. Walubo's stay with us. I was in the privileged position not only to learn from him, but I was also supported by him in the development of my career path, which I really appreciate. Prof. Walubo was always willing to support the Pharmacology Service Laboratory to help us to improve the service delivery to patients. We hope the many happy memories that we have of Prof. Walubo bring us some comfort during this time. To Prof. Walubo's family, please accept my sincere condolences.
Thank you very much, Professor van Zyl, for reading the message of Dr. Jan du Plessis. Can somebody make me aware when Professor Glenda Gray has joined, so that I can afford the opportunity? But we'll continue. I'm now going to call Mr. Tohlang Sehloho, who is a Senior Manager for Clinical Evaluation Management at the South African Health Product Regulatory Authority, SAPRA. Dr. Sehloho, over to you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, Program Director. And thank you for the opportunity to say a few words on behalf of my colleagues at SAPRA on this somber occasion. In remembrance of our recently departed mentor, colleague, and friend. Professor Walubo was a true son of the soil, even if I say so myself. An academic, Pan-Africanist, an internationalist who dedicated his life. My apologies. Who dedicated his life to overcoming all barriers on his path to acquiring and imparting scientific knowledge, both as an expert clinical evaluator and chairperson of the clinical committee, both duties which he discharged with passion and enthusiasm. I started interacting closely with Prof in 2012 when he joined the Central Clinical Committee of the then MCC. At the time, his relative youth and his energy impressed me and my colleagues so much that we immediately saw the future of the clinical committee in him. Indeed, he lived up to our expectations and was soon a prolific expert, evaluator, and mentor to the junior clinical evaluators. About 5 years later, in 2018, he was appointed the vice chair of the committee and subsequently chair in 2020 until his untimely passing. Such was his value to SAPRA and the clinical committee that he was leading the committee within 8 years of joining, and that he also readily accepted my proposal for him to design and present tutorials in quarterly on-the-job training sessions for our junior clinical evaluators. Please allow me, Program Director, to quote from Albert Einstein when he said, the value of a man should be seen in what he gives and not in what he is able to receive, close quote. Professor Walubo was a man who gave unselfishly of his time and expertise. His was a life and career that embodied dedication and selflessness, that inspired emulation, and that created paths for others to follow, as was said by previous speakers in terms of what he did for clinical pharmacology in South Africa. In conclusion, Program Director, it was once said about the impact of a man's life contributions on the occasion of his passing that it is not the years in a life that count, but the life in the years. Professor Walubo's contribution to medicine's regulation when he was with us, both here and internationally, still counts today. We shall all miss him at SAPRA and are so much the poorer without his mentorship and guiding light. May his soul rest in peace, and may his family, friends, and colleagues find solace in the Lord at this difficult time. I thank you all, Program Director, and may God bless you. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Totlang, for those words which I think we can identify with those words that you have said, the passion, the energy, and the commitment to excellence. That's what Prof. Walubo represented. And it was so contagious and palpable that you could see it everywhere he went. I'm now going to call Professor Eric de Kloot. Professor Eric de Kloot is a president of the College of Pharmacologists with the Colleges of Medicine of South Africa. As you are aware that Prof. Walubo is one of the founding members of this college and was a previous past president. Professor Eric de Kloot. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Mafolo. I'm reading a message on behalf and compiled by the College of Medicines of South Africa, as well as the colleagues from the College of Clinical Pharmacologists. Our community, the community of clinical pharmacologists, are saddened by the sudden death of Professor Andrew Walubo. We are still struggling to come to terms with his death and the enormous gap that he has left. We remember Professor Walubo for the major contributions that he has made as a clinical pharmacologist at the University of the Free State, but also nationally and internationally to advance the discipline. He was known for his passion as an academic and as a champion for his chosen speciality of clinical pharmacology. With his joyful, cheerful, and calm personality, he was a leader, mentor, and great teacher, driven by his famous saying, "My motivation, the need to educate." He worked tirelessly nationally, regionally, and globally in ensuring that clinical pharmacology takes its rightful place in the medical fraternity. He persevered to develop a funded registrar program to train specialist clinical pharmacologists at the University of the Free State. And we've heard that the first registrar started training last week. Professor Walubo would have been very proud to mentor his first intake of registrars. The registrar training program and his graduates at the University of the Free State will be an ongoing legacy of Professor Walubo. Professor Walubo served the CMSA as well as the College of Clinical Pharmacologists for many years with distinction. He was a founding member of the College of Clinical Pharmacologists and immediate past president of the College of Clinical Pharmacologists, having served in this capacity since 2014. He was also a member of Senate from 2009 to 2020. He was involved in several CMSA committees. As a member of the Examinations and Credentials Committee, he made extensive input into the policies and practice of the CMSA examinations. Prof. Senkubuge, president of the CMSA, summarized Prof. Walubo as a person very well, and I'd like to quote her. "It is rare in life to work with people who are consummate professionals, but most of all who have heart. Prof. Walubo had both. His towering legacy will not only be in his academic excellence and the tireless work he did for our country, continent, and the globe, but it will be in each heart that he has touched with his laughter, joy, kindness, and generosity. He will be sadly missed by the whole CMSA family. Today we greet Prof. Walubo, and we feel privileged that our speciality is richer because of his contributions. Our thoughts and prayers are with the Walubo family and friends during this difficult time. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Prof. Eric, for the kind words from the College of Clinical Pharmacologists and also from the past president of the Colleges of Medicine, Professor Flavia Sekombuje. I think one can learn from that. There is something that is permeating as a golden thread. It's commitment, excellence, passion, and energy. It was permeating everywhere he was going. And that is a legacy that Prof. Walubo is leaving behind. I would also like to read a message that I've received from the chairperson of the Medical and Dental Board of the Health Professions Council of South Africa, Professor Soli Rataimane. And it reads as follows: sympathies to Prof. Walubo's family and friends. On behalf of the Medical and Dental Board of the Health Professions Council of South Africa, I wish to convey our sympathies to Prof. Andrew Walubo. We started at the University of the Free State at about the same time. It was a good journey based on support systems in place. He was hardworking, polite, and informative. May his family be comforted, and may his soul rest in eternal peace. Professor Soli Rataimane, Chairperson, MDB of the HPCSA. Those are the words from the Health Professions Council. He was also involved there as well. I've received a message that Professor Glenda Gray is back. We lost her earlier, but she's back with us. Professor Gray, it's always a pleasure to have you, and it's a privilege to have you, and to pay tribute to our dear colleague and friend, Prof. Andrew Walubo. Over to you.
Thank you very much. Can you hear me? Are you able to hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Thanks. And I apologize for the glitch, what happened. So thank you very much, Program Director and colleagues. Professor Andrew Walubo, who was a clinical pharmacologist, a scientist, an esteemed colleague. He was an extraordinary human being, such a character. He also was our comrade and friend. So on behalf of the MRC and the MRC board, we send our condolences to Andrew's wife, Betty, and his children, family, and friends. We also extend our condolences to the University of the Free State. As you know, Andrew served on the MRC board, and we are very shocked and deeply saddened by his untimely passing. Andrew brought both wisdom and optimism to our board. He saw the good in the MRC and was highly supportive of all our programs. When he spoke, his wisdom shone through. As I've listened to all the people that have spoken before me, we speak of his humor, what a character was and how wise and thoughtful he was. And even on the MRC board, his wisdom shone through. He always listened intently and gave us very good advice. Unfortunately, his abrupt death did not allow us to say the things we would have liked to have said to him. And, I want to say these words to him now. Andrew, you were so worthy. You were so fitting and so true to yourself. And from my side, I want to also thank you for the support you gave me when I was the new president and CEO of the MRC. You were incredibly supportive. You gave me dignity and respect. I always found your support and your encouragement for my leadership. And I will definitely miss that quirky sense of humor, your parables and the way you spoke. We will miss your sharp wit and your great sense of humanity. Go well, my comrade, and know that we as the MRC will miss you. Andrew's death is an acute pain to all of us that will linger. And as I've heard, it's going to be hard to replace such a person. Our thoughts are with you in this difficult time. I just want to end with two verses from a poem by Ellen Brenneman that says, "Don't think of him as gone away. His journey's just begun. Life holds so many facets. This earth is only one. And think of him as living in the hearts of those he touched. For nothing loved is ever lost, and he was loved so much." So my condolences to everybody in the Free State University and to Betty and his children and his colleagues and friends. I mourn his loss with you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Glenda Gray, for those kind words. One thing that also we pick up as well from the legacy of Prof. Walubo is that inasmuch as he was an academic, dedicated, committed, he also had a sense of humor. He was human, and I'll reflect about that later. I'm now going to call Professor Vanessa Steenkamp. Professor Vanessa Steenkamp is the Deputy Dean, Teaching and Learning at the University of Pretoria and the President of the Society for Basic and Clinical Pharmacology. And she has worked closely as well with Prof. Walubo. Thank you, Prof, for availing yourself, and the floor is yours. Thank you, Vanessa.
Thank you very much. Dear family, friends, and colleagues of Andrew Walubo, I'd like to pay tribute to Professor Walubo on behalf of the South African Society for Basic and Clinical Pharmacology, a society in which he made deep footprints and in which those footprints will be left behind. He was a man who dedicated himself to building the discipline of clinical pharmacology. He was also the founding member of the College of Clinical Pharmacologists, of which he was the president for 2 terms, as we have heard. He wore many hats, and he promoted pharmacology in various forums. He served on the South African Health Products Authority as an expert on the expert advisory committees, and he represented South Africa and Africa at the International Union of Pharmacology. We have informed our colleagues and his friends abroad of his untimely passing, and all have written in messages where they remember him fondly and they send their deepest condolences. He was also an NRF-rated researcher with a research focus on drug metabolism and hepatotoxicity, traditional medicines, clinical pharmacology, quality practices, and immunopharmacology. I had the honor and privilege of being a reviewer for his NRF rating. And as Glenn said earlier, it's not just enough to say that he was a rated scientist. He was an established, well-rounded scientist that reached out to many and all that dealt with him. He also was a leader, a mentor, a supervisor, and a friend, a person who was looked up to and respected. He organized many workshops where he brought together colleagues nationally, from the continent, and around the globe. He was instrumental and played a big role in the World Congress of Pharmacology that was hosted in South Africa. Also, he was a very talented and knowledgeable person. He was an individual that will be remembered for his good sense of humor, an open, honest, and friendly person. Who would ever forget his unique laugh when you spoke to him and he would start to chuckle before you concluded a sentence? He will be greatly missed by the fraternity, and his legacy will live on in our fraternity. Rest in peace, our colleague, our friend, and a beloved person. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Steenkamp, for those kind words from the fraternity of the Society for Basic and Clinical Pharmacology. As one could hear, the impact and the gap, the void that has been left. May his soul rest in peace. I'm trying to squeeze time, so apologies if I omitted the redemptions for the sake of time, so that we don't lose other people who are waiting. We want to squeeze as many people as much as possible, because there is a great man with big shoes, and there is a lot that people want to say, and the tribute just keeps on pouring in. I would just like to call one of the former students who was also mentored by Professor Walubo, Dr. Mahotso Dehoa, who is now the senior lecturer and researcher at the Northwest University in the preclinical drug development program. Over to you, Mahotso.
Good afternoon, colleagues, and thank you very much to the program director. Before I can continue with my tribute, I just found it very befitting to reach out to Prof. Walubo's former students to collage just the 20 years really tribute of his former students. So I will just quickly share it. It's about 2 minutes long. Okay.
Building my confidence.
So apologies for that.
Note for the PhD studies. You gave me the opportunity to work with you on the biggest project, the pharmacovigilance project. You even made me the supervisor of the 5 research assistants and told me that Rufure, you are in charge of this unit. We had plans to expand the unit. A few weeks before you passed on, we even spoke about extending the project to even other African countries. Both of us were excited about this new venture. And now that you are gone, I feel lost. I am really lost. I feel unsure. I am beyond the Prof, in you, I had a father in the workplace. I had a mentor. You believed in me.
And as you can see, that is really a moving tribute from some of his students across the, I think, almost 15 years at the University of the Free State. And in terms of myself, I worked with Prof. Walubo as a student between 2006 and I think 2015. And in that time, I really got to know him as a funny person, as a leader, as a mentor. And he challenged a lot of us to become better scientists, to become better people, and more so importantly, to become problem solvers. Just to share some of the stories that I remember that are quite memorable of him was that Prof. Walubo was quite very fixed to his ways. And when I did my PhD along with my peers, our relationship shifted. And in that time, it became quite competitive. He was part of the old generation, we were part of the new generations, and he normally called us kudus. And out of that, we wanted to teach him new ways, but he was quite set in his own ways. One of the things that I remember in our season, he would send you a text at 5 o'clock in the morning, wanting results, wanting answers. And when WhatsApp started rolling in, we started convincing him, Prof, you know what, WhatsApp is quite cheaper, we want to do WhatsApp, and he was adamant. SMS works for me, I don't have a problem. So somewhere along the line, he met a student that indicated to him that the benefit of WhatsApp is that you get to see when someone has read the message, and it's a double tick. Ever since that day, he became so adamant about using WhatsApp, mainly because of one reason, so that he could know when we're ignoring his messages and when we've read and not been responsive. So really part of that made it easier to work with him, and he really loved training students, whether it was within the department, through trainings on the continent, through the different societies that he participated in, through AYUFA. One thing that he was really strong on was about training students and ensuring that he exposes their potential and increases their leadership. And for that, we're truly grateful and truly indebted to Prof. Walubo. And in closing, I would like to say to his family, thank you so much for the time that you afforded Prof. Walubo to us to help us become better people. And to the colleagues at the Department of Pharmacology at the UFS, sincere condolences to everyone that worked with him, the family, everyone. Sincere condolences, and may the Lord strengthen us through this time as we build on to this legacy. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Makgotso, for those words. And there's one thing also about his humor that you can't ignore. There's a book that he wrote. He's actually autobiography. He signed it. Went to his office, we discussed it. I said, I want to buy this book, I want to hear it. And it was quite interesting to read it. I'll just read an excerpt. On the Muyami Hill, 30 kilometers east of Jinja City, on the northern banks of Lake Victoria in Uganda, lies Muyami Boys School. It is one of the oldest institutions of learning that started in 1898 by British missionaries. Academically, it was among the best schools in the country, a record performance attributed in part to the tradition of admitting highly competent students, of all whom, by virtue of their excellence examination results, would earn a government scholarship. This symbol of excellence was maintained even as the school evolved from simple religious primary school to a modern boarding school secondary, training both O and A-level students until the admission criteria and many other traditions of similar importance were trampled on by the jealousy and ignorant administrators, championed by the headmaster. So if you go on and read this book, you end up just laughing all the way up until the end. That is the sense of humor that we are referring to. Colleagues, it's also a privilege to have among us the Vice Chancellor of the University of Busitema University at Uganda, Professor Paul Walubo. I hope he has joined. Professor Walubo, over to you, sir. We're looking forward to hearing from you all the way from Uganda. The floor is yours. VC, you can unmute. Professor Walubo. I can see he's in the audience online, but I'm not sure if he is able to hear us. Can somebody type a message? I don't know whether you can, just to make him aware that we are waiting for him. But nevertheless, I think
Let me just call him.
Okay.
Just call him.
Can we have a rendition while we just wait for Professor Walubo just to come in? A small rendition, a music item.
Yeah, Paul, we were waiting for you. We have been calling you. It's your turn. Okay. So you can hear us, but we seem not to hear you. Okay, let's see what we. Prof. Mufulo, Professor Walubo, he says he's here, he can hear, his camera is on.
Yes.
But it looks like we cannot hear him, but he can hear everything and he's ready.
Okay, the challenge is that he can hear us, but we can't hear him on his audio, no? Is that where the challenge is? Okay. All right. Otherwise, so there seems to be a technical challenge just to get Professor Walubo. Otherwise, we'll ask that he send us his message, which we can read through, if possible. Yeah, you know, these are some of the technical issues, you know, that sometimes unforeseen. I'm going to ask Professor Matsabisa, you know, a message from the family, and just a message from the family. Prof. Matsabisa, can you read the message from the family?
Thank you so much, Professor Mufulo. Thank you so much, Prof. Professor Andrew Walubo was raised in a big family of 12 children in the village of Kamuli in Uganda. He was one of two sets of twins. His father was a primary school teacher and his mother a devoted housewife. His father had a big impact on his life. He was a strict man who wanted his children to succeed in better despite the surroundings. After school, Andrew wanted to be an engineer, but his father told him, we already have an engineer in the family. We need a doctor. And that was the beginning of Prof. Walubo's outstanding career in the field. Prof. Walubo met his wife, Elizabeth, when he was a third year at the medical school, and he was doing the second year of school. As a young man, his wife fondly remembers him as being highly intelligent, friendly, and very hardworking. As a hard worker, he would go to check on his patients even in the middle of the night at 2 a.m. Prof. Walubo was also a very loving, considerate, and caring father. He would stay up the night when he was sick. When his wife worked late shifts, he would make sure to be home early to prepare so that she finds a good meal when she got home. He also wanted to instill the same values in his children: to be hardworking, resourceful, and pursuing knowledge. He valued family and would sit in his home country, visit his home country every chance he got. He was someone who interacted with everyone he came across. Even though he was intelligent and successful in his career, he could come down to anyone's level to make them feel accepted and valued, and especially making them laugh. He is going to be missed. He has left a huge void in our lives that will take a long time to heal, because he was such a great man. But we have this hope that keeps us enduring in this period of tragedy, that Jehovah, our God, will reverse all the damage and pain in our life, according to the promise in the Revelation chapter 21, verse 4, that says, He will wipe away eyes, and death will be no more. Neither will be mourning, nor outcry, nor pain anymore. The former things have passed away. While we wait for the fulfillment of that promise, when our beloved will be with us again, we are comforted by the legacy he left behind. A legacy of high excellence, passion for life, and consideration of others. We would like to thank the University of the Free State, colleagues and friends for the concern and love they are showing to our late husband and father at this memorial. Thank you. Thank you.
All right.
Rest in peace.
Thank you, Prof. Matsabisa. And from the message that we have received from the family, and you know, he was a husband, a father, and his family. We pay our condolences that be strengthened during this period of mourning. And with those words, I'm going to ask Ms. Diekitsen Telejane to come and read the obituary of Prof. Walubo. Mr. Telejane is the secretariat who's been helping the Department of Pharmacology and also assisted Prof. Walubo. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Prof. Andrew Walubo, who was the head of the Department of Pharmacology at the University of the Free State and chief clinical pharmacologist at Universitas Academic Hospital since 1999, passed away on Saturday morning, 13 November 2021, at the Mediclinic Bloemfontein after a short illness. Prof. Walubo is survived by his wife Betty and 2 children, a daughter and a son. Prof. Walubo had an illustrious career in medicine and was highly esteemed in the medical fraternity. He completed his medical degree at Makerere University in Uganda, his master's studies in pharmacology in Hong Kong, his doctoral studies at the University of Cape Town, postdoctoral fellowship training in the Division of Clinical Pharmacology at Vanderbilt University in the USA, and an MBA at the University of the Free State. He was inaugurated as a full professor in 1999 at the University of the Free State, and he will be remembered for his inaugural lecture he gave, "Wonder Drugs Are Wonderful People." Over the years, he has dedicated himself to building the discipline of clinical pharmacology and has gained recognition for this fledgling specialization. Through extraordinary determination and perseverance, he established the first postgraduate diploma in advanced clinical pharmacology at the University of the Free State, as well as the M.Med in clinical pharmacology. Prof. Walubo was an NRF-rated researcher, with his research focus on drug metabolism and hepatotoxicity, traditional medicines, clinical pharmacology, quality practices, immunopharmacology, and recently, drug utilization. Prof. Walubo was involved in a study on the use of biological medicines in South Africa, for which he supervised a PhD project, while his pharmacovigilance program was heralded by the opening of the antiretroviral pediatric registry in 2018, the only one of its kind in the world. Prof. Walubo has supervised and trained a number of postgraduate students, from honors, masters, PhD to postdoctoral fellows. Prof. Walubo has published widely and presented at national and international conferences. He is a fellow of the American College of Clinical Pharmacologists and the founding and previous president of the College of the Clinical Pharmacologists of South Africa. He has served on numerous institutional, national, and international committees. He served on the university's academic hospital pharmaceutical therapeutics committee for many years. In this respect, he was a reviewer and member of South African Health Products Regulatory Authority Experts Advisory Committees, the Biological Medicines Experts Advisory Committee, and was vice chair of the Advisory Clinical Committee. Besides his academic life, Prof. Walubo had a wonderful sense of humor and enjoyed traveling, storytelling, reading, and writing. He wrote Mpango and the Worst Headmaster Who Ever Lived soon after high school, but could only publish it 17 years later in 2016, after completing his medical career. This book is a true fictional story about his early life, which was motivated by the need to educate others. Andrew will be greatly missed by colleagues, students, friends, and family. Rest in peace, son of the soil. Thank you.
Thank you, Diegetzen. That is in memory of our dear friend, Prof. Walubo. Colleagues, we have almost come to the end, but I just want to check if Professor Waku if the technical things. Can we just try and see if Prof. Waku is he still in the audience? Can you just check for us, Prof. Matsavisa?
I wonder, can you unmute? Can you unmute Professor Waku?
We just want to give it another chance to see if he'll be able to speak. He could hear us, but we couldn't hear him.
Prof. Waku is still here. Can you unmute him?
Okay. Prof. Waku, can you give it another try? Can you unmute yourself and see if you can speak? If we could hear you. It seems, I'm not sure if, it seems like the technology is letting us down on the other side. But nevertheless, we want to thank Prof. Paul Waku, the VC, Vice Chancellor of the Busitema University at Uganda. I think he's a colleague, and he also has a lot to say about Prof. Walubo. So thank you. We have almost come to the end of the program. And I just want to give a vote of thanks to all colleagues. Like I'm saying as we speak, the messages just keeps on coming in. Colleagues, friends, family, relatives, because this was a great man. It's not easy when such people depart. It's like a tree, the baobab tree that has fallen. I would like to thank the University of the Free State, from the rector and the VC, and from the Directorate of Research Development, to the faculty and the Dean of Health Sciences at the University of the Free State, colleagues from various organizations, from Department of Science and Innovation, and also from the department itself. It's not easy. We also want to encourage and pray for strength for the Department of Pharmacology. We want to thank Universitas Academic Hospital Management, the pharmacovigilance team at National Department, the South African Medical Research Council, and the South African Health Products Regulatory Authority, the Colleges of Medicine, South African Society of Basic and Clinical Pharmacology, the Health Professions Council, and of course, we pray for tribute as well, for strength from the family and close friends. Colleagues, we are going to observe and moment of silence as we sing or as we play the Ugandan national anthem. I will ask everybody to stand, and then it will be followed thereafter by the South African national anthem. All right. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. And God bless Africa. Thank you.